If you tell me you've got a desire, I'm all in. Do you want to grow?
Absolutely.
Take notes and make sure it improves your business. Everybody wants to grow. You deserve to grow.
You don't pitch to investors to try your luck. You pitch to investors to win.
If it's not challenging, I don't think it's worth it.
The right advice to give in business is validate the idea first.
Most of you out there who want to grow, your issue is just starting, isn't it?
It's important that people just follow what they want to do.
It's an opportunity of a lifetime for all of us.
The podcast is not about them growing, it's about them helping others grow. Hello and welcome to I Want to Grow, and I Want to Grow is all about that. It's all about our growth. It's all about how we develop. But as I said to you in so many shows before this, it's not about the individual guests. It's not about their growth. It's about how they help others grow. And our guest today is a special one because I've got to say he's helped me grow so much it's untrue over the years. Steve Robson, the hero. Welcome to the podcast, and I'm so pleased to have you on here. Thank you so much for joining me today.
That's a lovely welcome, Steve. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, it's great to see you, and good afternoon to you.
And you're in Bournemouth, sunny Bournemouth. I think it's 1 degree there. We spoke just before, it's 1 degree. Here it's 28, I think.
It is. It is beautifully sunny, but frosted ground, and 1 degree. We've had -7 this week, but it's not stopped us. Normally it does, small country like this, but no, we've been all right.
I do miss the cold weather. It's a summer here. It's the middle of the winter, and it's a summer, and it's the sun is shining brightly. It's a fantastic day today. But it's a fantastic day for me. Honestly, it is a fantastic day for me because I've managed to get you on the podcast, and this really means a lot to me because you've been part of our growth now for nearly 20 years.
It was, yeah. And obviously we got together because of, we have the shared love for brand communications and design. And that's really how we got into it. I sort of went into business not thinking that I'll build some kind of capitalistic empire. It was more about the love for the creative. And, we built it from the ground up. So we're a small organic growth company. We had very small clients. Started off myself just doing hands-on design, and then very slowly and organically grown over the years. Taking on an extra pair of hands here and there. And then, of course, you start to put process behind that, start learning from your mistakes, doing it all the hard way originally, and then you start to refine and polish. And yeah, it's been a long journey. 20 years is a long time. And I think you knew me from a previous agency before that as well. We've just now seen all sorts of different clients across all different industry sectors. And then, obviously, I think must have been around mid-2000s, we obviously went from doing a lot of kind of heavy design work for brochures and print and things like that, and getting much more into the technology and into the digital side. Fast forward now, and that I think 70% of our business is all sort of online, whether that's apps or web. And of course now, as we discussed, I think only last week, we're having the conversation about AI. And how things are moving on that front. And now we're looking at things like augmented reality, virtual reality, and how AI can help us in content creation. So, it's been quite an exponential curve, and that creative industry has really kind of turned and twisted.
I think the many things that I look back at you, and I look back to the early days and when we were on that crest of a wave. And then all of a sudden we came off the crest of the wave, and we were up and down, and we didn't know whether we were going to survive or whether we were going to throw in the towel. But we always kept each other going. There's always been times where we've always come back to one another, and we've all both talked our way through that process and what we're going through. And we've always given each other that kind of boost that sometimes we need. Out of the blue, sometimes we think about each other, and then we give each other the boost of whether you're doing well or whether I'm doing well, and what's working for you and what's working for me. And I think that's helped us over the years. And I know that there's the competitive edge as well. We want to do well. We want to go back to one another because I know that you're going to be pleased with my growth, and I know that I'm pleased with yours. And that's a relationship. So I just wanted to let people know the type of relationship we've got here. But over the years, we've just kept it. And it's been so important. And I'm not letting you talk right now. But I want to say something else also, and I want people to understand, is that when COVID started with us, I remember that your work completely virtually died off, but you had all your team. You didn't want to get rid of any of your team, but you looked at me, you give me a call, and I'll never forget it. And I'll always want to repay you for this. But you called me and you said, Steve, we've got a lot of space. We can do some stuff for you. Come on, can I do your website free of charge? Can I do your website, Business Start Qatar? And back then, that was just the boost that we needed, because our whole digital marketing, digital platform changed because you put it onto one of your systems. And it probably you were one of those growth periods that changed our lives forever, because all of a sudden we went from just getting through, going into a COVID perspective, and then all of a sudden you gave us a spirit to go on. So I'll always thank you for that. And I'll always thank you for the website presence that we've got now. We haven't just got Business Startup Qatar, we've got Business Startup Saudi Arabia, we've got Business Startup Oman. And you've been an integral part of that when it comes to making sure that your platform has got SEO functionality. With all the things that you're changing, upgrading, we're benefiting from that because you're my friend. But the great thing that I love about this is that the way that you look after your clients and the way that you guide them. You just don't talk at them, you talk with them, you listen, you guide them through the process, you give them the understanding what the considerations that they may need to do. And that's what I love about you and your team. So I just wanted to give people the reason why you are one of my guests that I wanted to have on, because of what you've done for me. But I also want to talk about what you're doing for others. So you gave us a brief synopsis about what you're doing and the way that you've grown. But just give us an understanding, the types of things that you're working on now, to give people the understanding of what you're doing and how you're empowering your clients, and some pretty big ones, if I may add.
Yeah, well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Steve. That the thing that, or the kind of values that we both put into business, I think is the key to success. And to anybody starting up a business, it might seem like a daunting challenge. You're going to be very financially focused, because in the first year it's going to be difficult. But as long as you treat people properly, and I mean this genuinely, it's not contrived. As long as you're treating people properly and genuinely wanting to help people, then what happens is we talk a lot about sustainability in our business, and it's one of our biggest brand values. It's not just sustainability about the economic developments of print and sustainable nature of communications in that sense. It's much more about relationships. And if you can help someone when they genuinely need it, and it helps them grow a little bit, then you're going to form a trust. And if you form a trust, it means they're going to come back to you and they're going to support you in your own growth. And that's that sustainability. So as you pointed out, when we went through COVID, with the government over here did have one or two good things. Furlough was one of them. And we managed to get through. I think our turnover halved. And these are daunting times. And a lot of people, unfortunately, I think there was 300 businesses a week collapsing in this country, which is terrible. I managed to retain all the staff, and that's exactly what we did. We phoned up our clients that might not be in the same situation, who did need that little bit of help. And while we had the capacity, because we still retained the staff and obviously had half the turnover, meant we had double the capacity. So I knew what you were trying to do, and I knew that you were obviously having it was a bit of a double whammy, because in helping you, it meant that you could help startups as well. So that's what it's all about. It goes up and down the chain. And as long as people look after each other and have those ethics in business, and then things work and relationships last. Fast forward 20 years and you start to see, again, I use that word, exponential growth in those networks, because all those people that you retained over that time recommend you here and there. Now, we don't have a sales team. All of our success has come from the network and the word of mouth and the testimony that's come from those clients. And it's little by little, and as people have left their jobs and they've moved into new jobs and new industry sectors, they've taken us with them. And as they've had natural career developments and gone up the ladder, our clients have naturally then got bigger. So as you say, I remember begging the hairdresser across the road on the high street for their £3,000 website to keep us going on Christmas. Now we're working with American Express, JLR. We've done work for HSBC in partnership with WWF, but the values have never changed. The processes have got stronger. The services have got slicker. My team are very, very loyal and are long serving. But one of the things I think that I'd like to mention here as well, as part of that sustainability message, is it's all well and good that those philosophies and those values going down at the client level, but we also keep them at the employee level. So we have this little mini ecosystem in our business where it starts with education. Now, as you've seen yourself, Steve, the technological rate of software development and apps and devices is increasingly getting faster and faster, and you've got to stay on top of it to be innovative. So what we do is we encourage our staff to go and learn new things. So we'll pay them overtime in the evenings and weekends so they can go and learn new things that they think will be beneficial to our clients. They go and learn that, they bring that back into the business, and that gives us innovation. And then from that innovation, we go to our clients and we say, look what we can do, look what we've learned, look what's emerging. It's this really cutting edge. We've got behind it, we've learned something, we'd like to bring it to you. A lot of our clients will trust us in our strategy, that it's right for them. And they buy into that, which then gives them commerce and gives them trade, which gives everybody profitability, which we reuse to fund that education again. So you get this perfect cycle of education, innovation, commerce, and reinvestment essentially into the business. And it just keeps the staff wanting to be in their jobs with careers, looking at new technologies that the clients benefit from, and everybody kind of works together. So it's a really good cycle. And that's how we've now got into these new technologies. And as I say, we were very print focused originally. So we were doing brochures, catalogs, stationery, all that sort of traditional stuff. And then we started with web. And obviously, I think you remember, we were lucky enough to win a contract that supports the British Army's training. And that system that we had to build was a HR management system, event planning, and pay, essentially. And we built that as a PaaS platform, so a platform as a service. And that's given us microservices. Now, what the microservices are, essentially, if you think about it, is like web Lego. So when we've built an e-commerce web shop for somebody, for example, we've got a basket done, we've got a payment gateway done, we've got a booking form done, for argument's sake. They're all microservices that we then put back on the shelf. So what you find today, in today's kind of scenario, if you're buying digital services, is you tend to have two options. One is you go off the shelf and you buy an off-the-shelf platform, and the pros to that are it's ready-made, so it's good to go immediately, and it tends to be more cost-effective. The cons to it are you have to bend your systems and processes internally to match what that off-the-shelf system offers, so it's not exactly how you might want it. Then if your business grows in different directions, you can't mold or manage that system. So the second option that you see out there is custom built from the ground up. And that means you can have whatever you want when you want it. So that gives you full control, full growth. However, it tends to cost a lot of money and it's very slow for development. So there's an emerging kind of movement at the moment out there called the digital circular economy, where people are realizing that essentially you can start recycling code. So what we do is we use these components, these microservices. So if you came to me or one of your clients came to us and said, we want an e-commerce site, we take that basket off the shelf and we say, well, we've got the fundamentals of it, but we'll shape it and polish it so it matches the way that you want to do business. And then it becomes customized for you. And then if later on you want to make an adjustment to it, it's easily done, So it's things like that that are now really starting to just break down those barriers.
I think that with my experience with you as well, it's because as business owners, you're in this emotional thing, and you want everything to be done quickly. You want just get it done. But I think you kind of slow that process down in the sense that you get us thinking about the things that are really, really important to that business, and then to look at those deeply and talk about them and discuss them, and so that you can then. You can preempt these negatives. You can know what we're going through when you take us on the journey, so that you lead us to say, these are the things that you should be considering. And you're then going, yes, you're right. That's what we need. You guide them through that support. And the way that you've gone now is just incredible, because you've got so many, as you said, you've got so many things that you've created that can fit any business out there right now and give any solution to the requirements of going digital. And it's all about our digital footprint and how we utilize it better and how we can take advantage of AI. But a lot of the time, it's understanding how to utilize it. That's where I love you, because you give us all of that support. You give us all of that knowledge and expertise, what you're giving your staff, and you're building your business, and you're putting those structures in place, those policies, those procedures. We benefit from that as a client. Yes, we may pay a little bit more for that, but the value that you get is incomparable with what other people are doing out there. And again, I'll go back to this same thing. The clients that you're representing, and I know a lot of them, it's true testament to the way that you're building that business. When you're in just me and your experience, what was those things that you learned along the way from a startup to actually building something that you're really, because I know we went through a lot in the early days, and a lot of that was the wave, because we were so busy, it was untrue. We didn't think about things with the business side of things, the policy procedures, the structure, the standard operating procedures. We didn't have any of those things in place. But then that was something that I've learned. What was it that pushed your business forward? What was it that really you can look back on over the years and say, oh my word, I wish I would have done that much, much sooner?
So you're absolutely right. It is exactly that. It's policies and procedures. And it's even more difficult in our game, Steve, because it's the creative industry. So when we were dealing, and don't forget, it's all well and good me saying, yes, we got WWF and all these big clients, but we still have the smaller clients, and we get employed on very different levels. I can be employed by a business owner that doesn't have a marketing team at all, or I can be employed by, one person in one vertical channel of a bigger marketing department of an enterprise, and anything in between. So we have to constantly adapt up and down what we're doing. And the security of that, what we fall back on to be able to be that flexible, it is these policies and procedures, because they're tried and tested. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a genius and I wrote those from the off and got it all right. It's the exact opposite. It's all the problems that we had in the early days, all the mistakes that we made, that these things were born from. And again, in the creative industry, the problem you've got is subjectivity. So we're a big believer that everything starts with brand. So regardless of whether you're having a website or a social media campaign, it all has to start from your brand values, your mission, the objectives of the business. So when we go into a client, even if they just want a small campaign, whether it is just a website, we will always say, how is your brand looking? And it's not a sales technique. It's not an upsell to say, we'd like to do your brand as well. It's to say, okay, let's give you the most perfect website. But if your messaging's not right and it doesn't look right and you don't fit in the right marketplace, market placement or positioning where your products aren't correct, the website's going to fail. So even if it's just a discussion to understand whether their own messaging and communications are correct before you take it down a route to market, then that's where we start every time with that question at the top of the pyramid. And then there's a scientific process of applying that to the industry. And what that alleviates is things like people saying, I don't like my logo because I don't like blue. It's like, well, actually, blue is right for your industry. If you look at all of these competitors and we do this SWOT analysis, you'll see that we want to put you on the shelf over here, right next to these other people, but make you stand out. So it's not about what you like, it's about what's right for your business. So again, there's a workshop that we do that take people through these journeys. And then you've got all your stakeholders together, because the worst thing you can have is you get out of that and everybody believes they've done the right thing, but then the team don't believe in it. You've got to get everybody behind you. You've got to share that vision, and you've got to make sure you absolutely shoot for the target and get it right 100% before you go down any route to market. So I think going back in time, that's what I would have done. I would have put the science up front rather than the subjective.
I can see my own experience with you. And you did that with us, but we wanted to run 100 miles an hour forward. We didn't want to listen to this branding situation. We've got a logo and we're happy with it. I remember the conversations. I remember the two backwards and throwing. And what did we do? We done exactly what you said. There were some things that we kept, but it was understanding what you were trying to educate us with. We were operators, and this is what we do as consultants, advisors, is that we try to tend to give people advice on our own mistakes, our own kind of areas that we've fallen over. And that's what I look back on why we've moved forward quite considerably, is because we listened to you. We went through that process. although we went through it sometimes kicking and squealing, to say, come on, we need to go forward. We just understood that you had to get these things right, because if you didn't get them right, then people are not going to listen, because there's many reasons why people are listening to you or looking at you or considering you, but you've got to do the basics right, and you've got to do them well, because it's such a competitive marketplace out there, and you cannot afford to get it wrong. But that's where you've pushed us forward for 100%, and you're still pushing us forward.
That's it. That comes down to that identity, and people will invest a lot of time in their personality and the clothes they wear and the car they drive and the house they've got, because they want to be seen a certain way and they want to fit into a certain lifestyle and have certain relationships in a certain way. And a business is exactly that. An entity is exactly that. How is it looking? How does it sound? Where is it going to be? Who's it got to appeal to? And these are all, what we call corporate identities. And that just makes up one part of what that brand is. So you've really got to start to think about the shape of what you're creating. It is a baby in a way, and how you raise your child is no different to how you should think about raising your business. All these elements need to be thought through. And yes, most people don't want to get into those conversations because they just want to, like you said, they've got an objective to hit and they've got something to launch and a date to get there by. But yeah, you should slow it down. You should really look at it and say, is it right? Are we saying the right things, and are we looking the right way to the right people? And if it's not, then you should delay it and make sure you're doing it properly.
Steve, I want to talk to you about, there's a lot for us to talk about today, but I want to talk to you about, just for those startups out there, I want to talk to you about how scary sometimes it is to be able to take on members of staff and to increase that cash flow issue. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take more staff on. Hopefully you're going to be production, but you've always got to be ahead of the game. You're hoping that you're going to be busy. You're hoping in your beliefs and what you want to push the business forward. So you take those risks. How scary and difficult is that from a business owner, a successful business owner?
Again, we've made mistakes there. I'm a big believer in how people conduct themselves rather than what it says on paper. So I don't go after people that are, and this might be controversial, so I apologize to the listeners, but I don't go after people that have got degrees and look great on paper. I want to meet people. I want to see what their personalities are like. I want to know that they're willing and able to learn and adapt, and that they're going to do the right thing and have the right values. I always think you should hire on personality first, because you can always teach skills second rather than the other way around. And that's been a little bit of a problem in the business, because we've hired quickly before, because we've had a need and we don't want to let the clients down. So like you say, there's a bit of a scary thing there where it's like, well, we're about to get really busy and we've got the resource to do this. Just grab someone to do it, and then the quality of the work slips, or that person isn't what you thought they were. So again, be honest and open with your clients. We're in a growth phase. We want to make sure you get the best service possible, and we pride ourselves in the people that we select. So please bear with us while we make sure that this person can deliver what we need to. And if the client finds a bit of a rub there, then maybe be brave enough to just say, look, I'll offer a little bit of a discount while we go through this, but I want to make sure we maintain standards at all times. Nothing's going to slip on that. And then again, the scary thing is when you invest in an employee, and you do give them everything that you can to make sure that they're going to get the most out of their career and that they're going to do the best service for your clients, and then they end up leaving, and it kind of sets you back a little bit. So again, my staff are everything to me in the business. They're all incredibly loyal. They're all wide-eyed because they share the vision and they believe in trust in the direction that we're going in, and they know it will be shared because it's already being shared. And they can come to me and say, I've got an interest in X. Can I go and have a look into it? And yeah, if it's something completely separate, like they want to go on a cooking course, that's probably not going to help. But at the same token, if it's something about the industry or something that they're interested in, what got them in the job in the first place, then yeah, we'll support it, because it's only going to be positive from that point onwards. So yeah, I think the biggest statement there is personality first, skills second, and just be prepared to invest. I hear a lot of nightmare stories about people that just use staff, have high turnovers of staff, don't really care about their people, are capitalistic in their nature. Even with freelancers, I know freelancers can be picked up and put down. a lot of the time, because that's the nature of it. And I think that's slightly unfair. I think if you're going to get a freelancer on board, you should be committing to a block of time to give them the security. You can't expect them to always be there for you if you don't,
I spoke to a guy yesterday that literally, he was operating his business out of his garage, and now he's got one of the biggest insurance companies, not brokerage, insurance companies in Qatar. And I said to him, I asked him the question, what was the kicker that just pushed you forward? He said there was he took on difficult situations, jobs, or he came up. He put himself under immense pressure sometimes to be able to fulfill a contract, and I know that's the same with you. You put yourself under pressure before, but the biggest thing that he said, like you said, was he employed people that really that felt that this was part of their business too. This was something that they were going to go out there and put their whole lives on the line when it comes to making sure that this worked, because you gave them that ability to do that. And that's something that he said yesterday. And again, his success is just incredible. It's just incredible. But it's what you're saying, and you've got the incredible growth too with what you've achieved. With saying all of this, it's like, what's the pressure like for you in saying all of these things and managing those businesses and finding new skill sets and different services that you can provide? How difficult is it for you as an individual, as the owner of the business, to come up with the different ideas and different kind of things that can guide you in the right way of pushing that business?
Well, again, we're an organic growth company, so it started off with me in my bedroom being the designer. We then moved to a garden office, and I had another person, and slowly we got another one, then a slightly bigger office. That one of the biggest things I say as well is what I mentioned earlier about just taking that breathing room and just being able to say to people, hang on, let's just slow this down a little bit and make sure it's right. That's all well and good when you've got the breathing room and you don't have to worry about cash. Obviously, one of the biggest definers in a small business is cash flow, and making sure that you can get projects delivered to get money in to support the costs. One of the biggest things we realized is having a lump of capital in the business that gives you that comfort and breathing space, enables you to perform in an optimized way, because it takes that pressure off there. So even if you're, you've got a good sense of lending from, or a good supportive bank that will just give you a few months trading just to keep it there so you can manage that cash flow, that's really important. And that's the biggest place I saw our business grow, was when we just had that comfortable kind of, okay, we can take the foot off the gas a little bit just to make sure we're making the right decisions. I think that's quite important. Now we've got to the point where we have no borrowing, no investors, no partners, we're just self-sufficient. We don't even have a credit card now, because we've managed to just grow ahead of the work coming in. So when the work comes in, we're fully resourced already and able to pay for that resource because the cash flow is handled. So that doesn't mean it's really easy. Of course it doesn't. And we find as you go through business, you get different stages of growth. So going from one person to two is incredibly difficult. And I'd almost say it's harder than bringing on another 10 later on down the line, because you've got nothing behind you. You've got no certainties. You don't know where the next bit of business is coming from. And these are very difficult things. But again, as long as you're clear and honest about your vision to all around you, whether you're taking somebody on or it's your clients, you can't go wrong. As long as you're positive about what you're doing and you've got a passion behind it, people will trust you. And once you build that trust, you'll start to see it all work.
Okay, so tell us and try to give us as much information about your services that you provide right now. And did we say your name of your company, Earthstorm Media?
No,
we did. So Earthstorm Media, it's been a lifesaver for us, that's for sure. But Earthstorm Media, what do you do at your business?
So when we say we're a full service agency, in this day and age, that comes with a little bit of a frown, because it sounds like I'm trying to sell you everything I can. It's not the case. Again, it comes back to starting with brand. So when you start on that brand journey, there's kind of two pillars. Well, it's three pillars to the brand journey. One is the strategy. So if you take it as a bit of a kind of mental case study for a minute. If you're presented with a client, you need to find out first and foremost what their objectives are. So it's about listening to the client and saying, where are your pain points? What are you trying to do? What can't you do? What's your aspirations? Who do you aspire to? How are you trying to change this? All those different questions. And you just listen and you soak it up like a sponge. And then you say to them, okay, well, if you're doing that, then you need to say it like this, and you need to present it like this, and you need to do that to these people. So then you've got your strategic pillar in the middle that kind of takes all of that planning and that understanding. To the left of that, you've then got the messaging behind that, the written words, and the boiler statements and the mission statements, the elevator pitches, the copy tone of voice. And then to the right of that, you've then got the actual brand marks, so the logos, the color palettes, the graphic devices, the audio logos, the music tracks, depending how big you want to go. How do you look on TV? How do you sound on the radio? How do you look in a black and white rubbish little print ad in some local newspaper somewhere? It's all really important. Once you've got those toolkits done, you're ready to do any route to market at that point. So then when someone says we need to do our website, well, we know what your strategy is. We know who we're talking to, so we know how that's got to be structured. And when you land on that page, we know what the image is going to be, and we know how the video is going to sound because we've got it all structured. So we can do that, and we can put that down social, and we can put that on TV, and we can. So it is full service once you get those three pillars done, and it's genuine full service because of it. So at that point, you then need to get into testing, because not everybody knows everything from the get-go. The stakeholders of the business are going to be the experts in what they do, and they're looking to us to be the experts in what we do. So as a team together, you're producing those strategies and those ideas to the best of your ability, but nobody knows how it's going to be received, and you might get stuff wrong. So you've got to put the performance metrics in place as well. You need all the analytics. So when it goes out there, you can come back on month one and say, this is what went well, this is what didn't. So now we know we've got to fix this and do more of this. And then that forms the strategy for the next month. And then you go again. So you've got this continual optimization process through everything you do, every touch point you've got, until you get to those sweet spots. And then you get to that sweet spot, everything runs really well, and you come up with a new service or a new product and you start all over again.
But the great thing about it is as an operator, I can get on and do what I need to do, and you can take care of all this other stuff that you've just said and back and support us in every way that we need you. And I think that's the whammy. That's the kind of that's the miracle work that you do. And I say miracle work. I say miracle work. It just allows us to do so much more because we don't have to focus so much on what you do, and that's what I love.
Yeah, that's key. And I think the other key thing as well is you mentioned it earlier, Steve, that we've kind of supported each other through ups and downs over the last 2 decades. But I know that you have always been a positive person. You've always seen the glass half full, and you've always looked and always believed in what you're trying to do. And now you're doing it. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it's not easy, but you get there in the end. And I've got a couple of people like that in my life. Costas in Melbourne, who is a very remarkable guy, who is thinking very, very big. He's in the hundreds of millions. He's talking to, ANZ Bank, Barclays, all about software that he's selling, Google, and he's just at another level. And again, I look up to him, and there's no egos in these people. I think that's another thing is, you can sit down, especially for men in this day and age as well, you can sit down on a table and it's all ego led. It's all who's got the biggest business and who's got the most money. And it's just rubbish. The types of people I surround myself with are the humble ones that really genuinely want to help and believe they can and won't stop until they do. And I think that's quite important.
I'm getting the tingles in the hair standing up on the back of my neck at the moment because that's coming to the next thing. What are we going to do? How are we going forward? We've been working together for so long now, but we can say what we've got planned, and it's quite exciting, especially for the Middle East region. But it looks like we're coming together, right?
It does, yeah. So on your journey, you've started to establish exactly what you're doing. You know what your service is in. We just gone through the CTN practice with you, and we're now looking at all the different pillars that you've got there and all the different service offerings you've got. alongside it, I've now got a team that can support you in your growth. So I think coming together is really good because you've got this, the very nature of business startup means there are all these tick boxes that you need, and those trusted partners then become, part of that, just as the same as I would recommend my accountant or, someone else in business that we've dealt with. It's about that trusted network. And what we do when we come together then is you can handle all of that, those business startup pains, those administrative questions, the taxation questions, the trading policies that I know you've got, even the legal stuff that you guys do. So for a business owner coming to somebody like you, the relief and the expertise that you give them is unbelievable. Yeah, so I think that the two partnerships coming together is quite holistic. I think it really gives a business everything that they need to go and do what they need to do. Especially on your side with the kind of business mentorship and the setup and the legalities and the taxation rules and things like that, paired with our kind of voice, so we can really get behind them and help them voice what they need to do. That kind of wraps everything really nice as a support around startups in any region, really. I think that's the real power of it, is bringing trusted networks together.
But what I like, Steve, is the reason why the Middle East is, all roads are headed to the Middle East right now, and that's for sure. And the kind of things that you do, your services that you provide, is going to be like that. Look, people need to get an idea about how the culture is here. That's the main thing, and they need to build trust, because you've got to build trust. If you haven't got that trust, you haven't got anything. But when people here start trusting you and you show them what you're capable of, then the question that they ask you is, what else can you do? And that's where you're going to even have to grow even bigger, because if you can provide this support, if you can provide these technicalities, then they're going to want more, because they're going to see their business grow. And that's what I think you're going to be huge here in the Middle East, is that you provide just that to the clients in the UK. And again, like you work with the likes of Mercedes, you work with, as you said, you work with the British forces, parts of the British forces. So there's many things that you're doing, and you're just going to be able to replicate that into young startups, SMEs, and big clients. So you've got the toolkit for everybody, really, and that's what I'm excited about. Is you coming to start with us and to see how we can develop this relationship for you to be established in the Middle East, and especially in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. So I'm looking forward to that process, because you really have. I've seen your growth, you've seen my growth, and you've been a big part of our growth and the way that we've developed, and you just help so many people along the way. That these are the times that we need those, because we're going into an uncertain time now with digital and AI. You just need to make sure that you're, I wouldn't say ahead of the game, but you understand the game. You understand how to create that competitive edge, and you're the ones that are going to give that to so many different people.
I think that's why you've done well over there, Steve, because it's a genuine desire to help, and I think, if you're not like that in business, and if you do, like I say, if you are capitalistic or a little bit ruthless, then you're very short-lived. That becomes exposed, and then nobody wants to use you. So it's not sustainable. It's just easier to just build trust and do things well. And then when you do get that, everything starts to work for you. And I think you and I, like I said at the very beginning, have always had the shared business values about that. And it's worked, like I said, it's taken time and it's not been easy, but it's worked.
But come on, for us, this is just the beginning. And it's
Absolutely.
Like sitting here with you now, it just brings it home, because I'm looking at it, all of a sudden, the relationship that we've been building over a certain period of time, it's just made us double the size and offering treble the kind of services that we can provide. It's just
Absolutely.
amazing. It's just a no-brainer. And now the whole world is open to us. And that's what we got to tend to understand. And this is what I try to say to young startups and SMEs, is that once you get digital, it's not just your region anymore. It's a global perspective. And you need to get your message out there, and in the best possible way. And having something that's working for you 24/7. And that's the positive. And don't underestimate that. And don't scrimp and save on those things. If you want to get it done right and professionally, and it will last you forever.
That's it. And again, when you go global, off a .com, you've got to think about translation. You've got to think about how things are affected culturally, how things are positioned differently, what words mean different things, how different markets align very different to other markets. And again, that is all part of the voice and the brand, but it needs a lot of research. It needs to make sure it's done properly.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Steve. So I ask everybody, I'm starting to ask all these questions, this one specific question, and I'm going to ask you, okay, if you were to give a business message to your 15-year-old self, what would that message be to them for you now?
So be humble, be kind always is important. Make sure you back the right people for the right reasons and just always want to help. That's it. Just make sure it's always help and service to others, essentially.
Steve, what's your future? And I know you, and that sums you up. All of those things that you just said there, it sums you up. What's your future? I know the expansion within the Middle East, but what are you trying to achieve now with Earthstorm Media?
So the microservices that I talked about earlier, our software is called Alaska. So the Alaska is a pure PHP written PaaS software system. We're splitting these microservices out into an interface to allow other developers to use it. So it's going to become a new kind of coding network, so we can kind of spread and share the technology and not keep it all to ourselves. So we're developing that in-house at the moment. And then we're just looking at ways now to be able to keep the efficiencies, keep the service level whilst growing, because this is the problem. When you start to get to a certain size, you don't want services to slip. And you do need the help, and you need to make sure that the standards are maintained. So a bit of the challenge that we're going through now is to grow and keep those values. But yeah, we're focusing on the software development so that we can start sharing it with the world.
Oh, wow. And it's like you've got plenty, the clients are giving you that traction.
They have, yeah. Without the clients and without the revenue from those clients, we wouldn't be able to reinvest back into the company. And that's something else that we've always done is, like I said, make sure that capital base is there so that you can get that breathing room. Make sure your staff are paid well. So another thing we do is we pay our staff regular bonuses. So at the moment, two of my department heads are managing a project completely on their own without me. They've done an absolutely brilliant job, and they'll be rewarded for it as we go. So everybody shares in it and grows together.
Is that scary for you to let that responsibility go?
No, it wasn't, because I trust them so much, and it's proven to me that they know what they're doing, and they've come back and reported, and it's been a huge success. And now I can continue to not worry about it. But it takes time to get those right people on board that you can do that. But these people have been working for me for 4 or 5 years already, and just they're carving their own path, and I'm letting them do it.
Steve, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You've helped take us to another level, and I thank you. I thank you for coming on the podcast today, but I really thank you as an individual, because we have had the ups and downs, but you've always that message to your 50-year-old self, you've actually followed it through all the way. So you've done it all the time, because I know you have. It's been an absolute pleasure and a joy to have you on the podcast today. And there were so many messages that you're going to give to so many different startups and SMEs out there and big businesses, because if they're not ready, they need to get ready. And you're the guy to come and see.
Well, Steve, thanks ever so much for the opportunity. It's been a privilege, and this is the first one of these I've ever done. So if it helps anybody, if anybody can take anything from it, then it's job done.
We'll put everything on there about your they're going to know so much, because we're going to publicize it all on our channels. You are an incredible guy, and what you've created with Earthstorm Media is just unbelievable. And we cannot wait to be working with you more and more, and to come and set that office for you in multiple regions of the Middle East. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Steve. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming to join me today from the UK in that cold weather.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that.
Everybody, thanks for listening. I know the value that you've got from this one today is incredible. Okay, take a look at their website. Okay, Earthstorm Media. Take a look at it. You can Google them. You can find them everywhere. Okay, just go and have a look, because this is what it really means to get yourself forward, is listening to people like Steve and to adopt some of the feelings and the ways that he's gone forward and put it into practice. Okay, thanks for listening this week. Steve, again, thank you so much for coming on with me today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much indeed.
Thanks, Steve.